I haven't started yet. Now we're gonna start. Welcome. Did you know that this one here is the most popular 911 version? Why is that? And what's new with the Porsche 911 Carrera S facelift? We're going to take a detailed tour here, and of course with a lot of driving here for you today, both with the Coupé and also with the Convertible. I'm Thomas, this is Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go! More than 1/3 of the customers here of the 911 go for the 911 Carrera S. Why is that? Well, there's the base version, which maybe doesn't have enough punch, but then there's the GTS model above it, which is maybe too expensive or maybe too extreme in a way. So people tend to go for this middle option there for the 911 Carrera S. And this is like, so to speak, the sweet spot in the model portfolio. It's the last one that is facelifted right now with all of the changes. We're going to take you here on the detailed tour. First of all, aerodynamic changes, and the 911S now gets this previous generation turbo look here from the air intakes in the lower part, really open design. Here today in our red color and with the black contrast in the lower part, a little bit cleaner look now here in this facelift. You now get the matrix LED lamps as standard. These ones here are the HD matrix LED lamps. This is an option. Yeah, and there are, of course, even more options with this vehicle. You'll be surprised about the price later on, for sure. That's always a thing about the 911, of course. Length here is 4,55 meters or 179 inches, and always 20-inch wheels in the front. Different stylings are, of course, available. And here, optional with the Porsche ceramic brakes as well. The most cost-intensive option, so almost 10K. And in the rear, 21-inch wheels, so bigger wheels than in the rear to get all the traction on the ground. This one here, rear-wheel drive. There will be all-wheel drive models coming up later on again. However, we already saw it with the GTS model that now with the bigger wheels and also the wheels that give you even more grip, even more traction, you don't have a difference in the acceleration figure from rear-wheel drive to all-wheel drive models anymore. This one here now with the upgraded version, 3.3 seconds in the acceleration figure with the sports chrono package, and we expect somewhat the same figure also then for the all-wheel drive version. There's also a power upgrade here now at 480 horsepower, 30 horsepower more than before. So that's this, a little bit software tuning and so on. And talking about tuning, suspension changes as well. Now gets the dampers from the GTS and supposed to bring you more span between comfort and sportiness, because the PASM, the adaptive suspension, is standard here for this one. And optional, also good with this vehicle here, minus 10 millimeters. So that's like the sporty trim of that suspension. And by the way, here in the rear, I can open this service flap. So usually the engine is serviced from underneath. So that's the only thing you can see here for some fluids and so on. But always cool to take a look at it here, 3.0 S. In this case then here, a 3-liter 6-cylinder, flat engine, twin turbo. That's how this one works here. So it's the same base engine as for the base Carrera version. This one just with a little bit more software tune and some elements, as I said, from the dampening now from the GTS. Looking forward to drive this one very soon. Gotta say though, the Autogefühl fake exhaust police is there for you because the outer tip is not the real exhaust. Yes, the air does go through, but the real exhaust end is inside. But what you can see here, the black tip around, this signalizes that this one is the sports exhaust. Otherwise it would be in this bright chrome. And as the guys in Stuttgart, Germany say, it's the Sportager, or as we say in Schwäbisch, das ist der Sportager. That would be like the German dialect to say that this is the sports exhaust from that region. And you can also get a rear axle steering, also equipped with this one here. The logic is the rear axle steering you can pick individually, but if you go for the PASM Sport, the PASM adaptive suspension minus 10 millimeters, then it's in a package together with the rear axle steering like it is here with this vehicle. Later on, I'll also drive a convertible without the sportier PASM. Then we can also compare, should you rather go for the sportier suspension setting or should you rather go for the Grand Tourer setting. Porsche, building Frunks before electric vehicles were invented. You can also open it here with the key fob. There we go, unlock it. And here today I want to show you a setup what really can fit in. You see here the cabin trolley, put in horizontal, backpack and a few jackets and yeah, some stuff put around it. That's what does fit in here. And for closing it, it is said that, like in a two-step, and that you should press here on the crest to, yeah, not to put any dent in the hood and so on. And while we had the Coupé in Guards Red, we have now here the convertible in ice blue. Really nice color here, fitting also as a contrast with the red roof. Different roof colors are also available. And yes, the Coupé has somehow the more central form, but I think for a convertible version here, it is very well done because that roof is really stretched and also the hip area here is extremely strong. So I think they manage it very well that the convertible looks as much alike to the Coupé as possible. And a quick look here from the rear. Difference in the acceleration figure, convertible to Coupé is 0.2 seconds. Why? The convertible is a little bit heavier because you need to have additional stiffening measures around the chassis because you lose the stiffening from the roof on the top, most obviously. And of course, opening the roof is always a lot of fun. There we go, I can also indicate it here with the key fob. That's pretty cool. And also a very quick process. You can also check the time code below. Yeah, and that's actually already it. Here, when I have this one pressed, only the front window goes up. I can of course go even further. Let's take a look. Oh, there's our auto fuel cap, of course, and you can get your merchandise in our shop below. So here we go. Inside of the doors, you can also lower this one, or of course then also lower the front one if you want most wind inside. And behind me, if you look there, this is a very cool integration. This integrated wind deflector. So it's one click in the middle console and that's it. So that's a very clever system. So if you want least wind inside, then of course you put the deflector up, put both windows up actually. So here this one and then also the second one here. And then you're really well protected. Now towards the interior here, when you open or close the vehicle, you see here these door handles come towards you. Then you pull them like this and then the door closing sound is actually quite cool, although it's frameless of course. And you also have this dual lamination here, dual layer for the windows for better sound deadening and so on. So that's dual glazing, you say. So that's actually quite cool. Very rarely do we have really cool door closing sounds when the doors are frameless. Then inside of the doors, here everything in this very wrapped horizontal scheme. Just some small door pockets, but they're also covered with fabric here, for example. Optional Bose sound system. And the famous Carrera S entry badge then here. This is like the service opening for the rear and the front opening if you don't do it with the key fob. Steering wheel, also still with real volume jockey, for example. Then with the sports chrono package, you also get this boost button. It's always cool to have the driving mode selection here at the steering wheel, easy to select it while driving. And at this moment, all the screens are off. You can see everything digitalized now, so soon more to that. Seats, you can get different seats. These ones are already ones that have, more possibilities to control it. Like here in the lower part, you can see so many switches. Then I think these should be the 16 way, I think. So now let's get inside. And the thing is that these seats are not the most comfortable seats. Yes, it's a sports car, but I think for that price, they should also offer more comfort. And they also have no alternative to animal materials here for the seats. And that's also not, up to date. And if you think that's no problem, well, would you show to children how animal leather is being made from like 0 to 100, the whole production process? You would not do that. And that's why this material is a problem and you need alternatives to that. And then we have the new digitalized cockpit now. First of all, it's cool that you have this horizontal scheme again. And here, also this like galvanized atmosphere or this surface here. Everything also horizontally wrapped here. Everything really tight, sporty. Sports chrono package here with the analog clock in the upper part. That's always pretty cool, of course. Integrated screen. The software is Android based from the back end. And what I really appreciate here, the real buttons also, for example, for the exhaust note, for example, here also with this galvanized metal knurling in the tips here for the suspension setting. And also listen to that. This is a favorite button here, for example. These clicking sounds are awesome. Also here, for example, the climate unit. I could just sit here all day and click these buttons and do like ASMR episodes like this. Also then here for the volume on the left side if you don't use it for on the steering wheel and so on. And this brown shaver design here, if you forgot to shave, you can just do it with the small shifting lever, like yeah, but it actually looks quite cool. Also seat heating has still real buttons, and once again really like hard feedback, real clicking sound. That's cool. This is here a cup holder. You can also remove that and put in just like a cubby hole instead of that. That's possible. And also here, when you put these things back into place, adaptive. Then this armrest here underneath, updated, so it's a little bit easier now to put this phone in. Also ventilated for the inductive charging pad, 2 USB-C chargers, for example. And with 189, 6'2", still enough headroom left. There's also a panoramic roof available. And of course also the convertible. And here this one's also good with the Alcantara headliner. It's a beautiful atmosphere then inside the vehicle. So I really love that, you know. So a racy cockpit, definitely. The shifting pedals here behind the steering wheel also give you such a great feedback. That's also really, really nice. So that is all driver focused really. Oh, co-driver focused, by the way, is here the cup holder on the right side. It's always a funny hidden mechanism. And here there's the glove box then, and also with a nice closing sound. However, all the pockets and storage is of course not really, you know, large. So you have to search your space. If the frunk is full, of course you can put stuff behind the seats. Yeah, I mean, that is possible like this here, but you see there's not much legroom left, nothing to sit behind. Isofix, this could be used, for example, or you can also fold these down here on both sides, and then you can put a bag or something like here. That's also possible. And they are also like a little bit secured behind the seat, so to speak, folded easily up again. We did some tests earlier, and the one thing that would be possible is when Lea goes really forward with that seat, then someone could sit here on the passenger side, theoretically, but that's about it. Yeah, and then about the instruments. They are all digital, they look cool, crisp display, but you know that the 992 generation, as it was initially launched, still had the analog RPM meter. And honestly, I would prefer that. What about you? And here we go. You can also change something here. You are, of course, more flexible with digital instruments. You can change the view like this, completely different. Also a map view, for example. So that is all possible. Yeah, but somehow in this vehicle, wouldn't an analog RPM meter be just more in style? And the main infotainment system like this. There, for example, you can also change some more climate stuff, and of course the vehicle options. Here you can also extend the spoiler on the exterior, for example. Shall we do it for a second? There we go. I mean, it does it automatically, of course, when you're driving at a certain speed, and you can also retract it again like that. And Apple CarPlay or Android Auto integration looks like this. Okay, Lea will test it for us. So maybe you can move forward so you could still sit there and then see if you can still fit behind. Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, that's the maximum thing. So, and then let's see, I also put this one forward. You can see that. That looks like fun.
Yeah.
And now
Bedroom is
put it back. Can you put it back? Yeah, I mean,
maybe 4 or 5 minutes.
Emergency situations
Yeah.
or something like that, but
And the seat is very, very hard.
seat is too stiff. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So you see,
Maybe back here.
yeah, even though Lea is not as tall as me, it is nothing for adults. Sport mode. was nice. It was like 25 to 80 miles an hour onto the freeway. Yeah, beautiful acceleration from the rear-wheel drive model. That's all we need, and brings so much traction to the ground with these large tires. That's really amazing. And in the sport mode, of course, everything is being pronounced. Also, sports exhaust here, I can also deactivate it again if I like, for example. And if I would go to the Sport Plus mode, then also the suspension is set stiffer. So it's not automatically actually in the sport mode, but I could also induce that. I can also just press it here myself. As I said earlier, this one here being equipped with the sportier suspension setting of the PASM, but still both with the new damper generation and also a wider span between comfort and sportiness. And we'll talk about that throughout the review and also compare one later on which has actually the more comfortable setting. But so far so good, when it's not too destroyed here, this road, actually. Yeah, the only thing you do here is that it's still quite loud in this vehicle. So although we have the dual glazed windows here, this is still a vehicle where you, so to speak, literally communicate with the outside world.
You feel it.
And you feel it, yeah, you still feel it. That's very interesting. So it's really not the most silent car here on the motorway, and this is also a typical situation. Every day you will probably also drive motorway with this vehicle. So I think you also get it on the camera that it's relatively loud actually. But what's cool is even when you're here on the highway and maybe you're commuting to work or something, it's still always fun to drive, and every lane change is a lot of fun. Let's see if we can somehow feel suspension differences. Normal mode, then go to Sport Plus mode, for example. Then here, like, all the RPMs are turned up, also the sound and so on. But as I said, I can also just keep everything calm and just, yeah, you feel this switch, right?
Yeah.
Like these individual, now it's like a little bit bad, the highway here. And then you feel like and that is so much more pronounced when you have it here on the stiffer setting. And it's really easy actually and comfortable when I deactivate it. So yeah, that's very interesting. So normal setting would be having it not on the stiff node and maybe just use it for the race trick or something like that. And also in the normal mode, it's still super sport. The car doesn't lean at all. They do not offer the dynamic chassis control anymore because no one really went for that option, and I think it's also not a really necessary thing to pick there. So definitely also a fun machine here when being on the freeway, and when you're on the throttle, everything is so seamless, like the transition between the gears and the acceleration and so on, super smooth. It's good test actually because the highway looks like it's being rebuilt soon. At least I hope so for you guys who are living in this area. And the suspension is still doing a good job. So I'm really happy with the suspension here so far. Noise insulation, as I said, could be better. Also very good, nice and feeling for the brakes. That's also definitely fine. And let's drive a little bit sportier here. Very nice in the corner, super precise from that steering here. No dead zone area whatsoever. You can also shift down, for example, if you want to have some higher RPM out of the corner. That's beautiful. So much driving fun. And again, so precise. No matter what you want to do, the car is doing it directly. That's the great thing. Yeah, and you can either shift down yourself and shift up yourself, or let the car just do its thing. And when you're in these sportier modes, of course, the RPM are kept higher, so the gears are being kept lower as for that. Yeah, and that's you don't have to wait for the turbo to set in or something like that. It's always directly there, so very good, good to dose actually the throttle and so on. That's pretty cool. So this is a pure driving machine. Yeah, that gets the Lea-meter going as well. Beautiful. So we can continue on further here, and yeah, having such a blast here. This is where this car is really at home. And of course, always home on the racetrack. I've been driving the GTS on the racetrack recently, and yeah, it's such an effortless ride indeed. And no matter how quick, how tight, how open the corner is, it's always so much fun. So it's a true driving machine. I can just stress that once again. And you see also I can keep my hands on the steering wheel, both hands all the time. And the steering angle basically follows the corner. Look at that, you know, that's beautiful. So it's such a flawless experience. And yeah, I mean, the S model just gives you more punch than the base model, and I mean, it's only like 0.3 seconds away in the acceleration from the GTS, so gotta wonder if it's really necessary then to go for GTS. I think the sound is better here in the S model, and talking about the sound, yes, not everything of that is natural. So because the cars are more and more insulated, and at the same time they also have like the new laws that the sound on the outside is not allowed to be that loud, and so they kind of blend the sound. So something you hear real still, of course, from the exhaust, even more of course when like the valve is open, and they blend them together with some artificial sound, and it's not in a way that it's like recorded and then giving back by the speakers. It's pre-recorded, so not live recorded. They've pre-recorded sound files, like 150 or something, from different situations, different RPM areas, and then they are like blending that enhancement of the sound together with the real stuff you hear to even out what's not allowed again by law, you know. So they want to keep the sound at the same level than before with that artificial enhancement. And yeah, you can understand it in a way, and I think it still doesn't sound weird. And honestly, the GTS sound with this electric turbocharger, that sounded a little bit weird. And here I feel the sound sounds more natural. Of course, the 911 is not like, I don't know, like an F-Type V8 or something. The 911 has never been like the main sound machine or something like that, you know, never been the case. But here, I think it's fine. It gives you a good feedback of what you're doing on the road actually. And here, for example, there's no one. If we do some slalom here, yeah, it's, although it's meanwhile a large and heavy car in comparison to previous generations, it still feels like driving a go-kart. That's such an amazing experience here in this one, definitely. How do you feel?
Very good.
Lea, that's the best one, you know, because sometimes Lea does get sick from time to time in different cars, and that's never a good sign. But then here, because the suspension keeps the car upright and you sit relatively low, the G-force are applied in a different way to you, you know, and that makes also then the passengers relaxed and that they can also have fun while you drive this car in a very sporty way. And yeah, and wheel drive is of course a way to go, unless you really need that all-wheel drive, gotta say that. Having such a blast. I mean, the only thing, of course, told you earlier, I find the comfort in the seats not really good. The ergonomics is not really ideal.
It's getting very hot here.
It's getting hot from the animal skin surface as well. Yeah, so...
But they hold you tight here.
They hold you tight at least, but also, yeah, definitely, yeah, not the best idea comfort, but I mean, it's such a dream how to drive this vehicle. The driving is what the 911 is all about, and the 911S just stress that. Not missing any GTS, not missing any turbo version. The S is really all Porsche 911 you need, and every corner confirms that, definitely. And now to driving the convertible. Well, first of all, I mean, I want to drive with open top now to show you the difference, but I also drove with closed top, and I have to say, at least at normal speeds, like 60, 70 miles per hour, like 100, 120 kilometers an hour, the noise level, Coupé and convertible, is basically the same on the inside. It will only make a difference when you really go very high speed on the German Autobahn, for example, where the Coupé will be more silent. But since also the Coupé is not the most silent vehicle, I think that's not the main aspect. Here, of course, driving with open top, such a joy. I own a convertible myself. I love driving a convertible. That's just my thing totally. Gotta say though, here at 45 miles per hour, there is still some, like annoying wind noise, which you would not have at these speeds, and even not higher than that. For example, in these mid-size convertibles like Audi A5 or S5, RS5 and so on, or the BMW 4 Series, these convertibles are more silent as for the wind noise and wind turbulence and so on. So although we have all windows up and the wind deflector, you maybe also pick it up on camera. Here, like at 45, 50 miles an hour, so like 70, 80 kilometers an hour, it's still somewhat okay, but they are way better convertibles as for the wind noise and the turbulences that are created here on the interior. Gotta know that for sure. Nevertheless, 50-50 split approximately between Coupé and Convertible, because this is here also a leisure vehicle, a car that you just want to drive to have fun with. And that's why, of course, the Convertible is also still so suitable here, and yeah, it's amazing. Plus, in this vehicle here, we also have the non-sporty setup of the PASM. And honestly, when you're driving straight, I would have expected we feel more difference when driving straight, that it's maybe more comfortable or something, but that's not the thing. I just feel like when you're doing slalom and cornering, then the PASM, which is a little bit lower and also has the sporty setup, is a little bit more direct and precise in the feeling. But I would not say that you lose much comfort. So what I have expected is that I drive this one and say, this is the clearly more comfortable setup, only go for this one. What I have to say, what I experienced though, is you can also go for the minus 10 millimeter PASM, maybe have some more sporty driving fun, and I don't feel that you would lose too much comfort. That's my finding for today as for this respect. And of course, when you are in the Convertible here, why not listen to the real sound while you have the open top? Lovely. That's the stuff. As for the consumption, you can drive it with 9 liters on 1 kilometers, so 26 mpg US, 31 mpg UK, more like 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, cruise control, like this is the minimum consumption. If you do more like agile driving, what we did here now, you lose some 6 mpg, for example, or add like a liter on 1 kilometer. That's easily done, of course. As for pricing, for example, it starts in Germany at 155,000 euros. Dollar prices here in Northern America, always like some 10k less, because you also don't have the VAT in there and so on. If you go for a convertible, then again 15,000 more, for example. And this vehicle here is really the top spec one, also with the ceramic brakes and so on. And then you can get even a 911S over 200,000 euros or dollars, and that's of course really extreme. So it is such an iconic car, and here with the update, even a little bit more twist to it, especially for the suspension, like the span between sportiness and comfort. I would have wished still for analog RPM meter. That's what also you have asked Porsche. But yeah, they're going all digital there in that respect. And I also think they should upgrade the seating comfort and also need to add animal-free materials. But the main problem, of course, with this car is always the price. Yeah, I mean, as I said, so iconic in design and it drives so phenomenally. And no matter which 911 version you pick, it is always ready for the racetrack and is, in comparison to other sports cars nowadays, still a relatively light vehicle. So it's always fun to drive. You don't have like this fatigue and so on. And also if you consider, for example, a Mercedes-AMG GT, so much heavier. And if you put it to the racetrack, this one can sustain so many more laps actually, and without, being annoyed or something like that due to the weight. But yeah, as I said, pricing-wise, it is an overpriced car, that's for sure, because with the Porsche 911, yes, you buy this driving dynamics, but you of course also pay for this iconic status of the vehicle. What do you think about it? Tell me in the comments, and we have more 911 content here for you.